Good morning. I'm Melanie Turbovic. My pronouns are she and her. And introduce yourselves.
I'm Leilani Smith, and my pronouns are she, her.
Quinn.
So they are going to help me light the chalice and raise the fish. And yes, last week at the pet service, I had little fish. This is big fish. And at the parts where I say something and you need to respond, big fish will rise, okay? So you will respond with the words, curiosity is an endangered species. And we're going to pretend that it's written up there. Curiosity is an endangered species, okay? That was the great one. Okay, let's all practice. Okay, fish down. Okay. This is a practice. Curiosity. Thank you. All right. So, the extinction of curiosity stifles our imaginations, paralyzing our ability to author better futures. Audre Lorde reminds us there is no such thing as a single-issue struggle because we do not live single-issue lives. The types of problems we face can no longer be satisfied with familiar answers. They demand the original thinking that begins with asking essential questions. Without a robust culture of curiosity, imagination is rendered impotent, and all we're doing is surviving the day, administering transactions on autopilot, surrendering our agency, and perpetuating an ineffective status quo. We become managers of the end state of problem solution continuum. Our roles become reduced to administrators of predetermined solutions rather than interrogators of the unknown. Consuming the choices that others have made for us, relinquishing our right to be the author of our own story. We assert agency over our future only when we challenge what is known. Curiosity is an endangered species. And just once more, curiosity is an endangered species.
Good morning. I'm music director here. I'm Alison Vernon with pronouns of she, her. But I wonder if we could take a quick minute for those of you who did not pick up a gray or a teal hymnal when you came in. If you need a hymnal, either raise your hand or somebody can scoot them around, or please grab a hymnal because we don't have our slides for the words of our hymn. And the first hymn is in the gray hymnal. And it's number 77. Thank you. We'll take a moment. While you're grabbing some hymnals or someone is passing out some hymnals, this first hymn is called Seek Not Afar for Beauty. Because as we are seeking and questioning, sometimes our answers are either within or in nature. And so we'll celebrate that with the singing of hymn number 77 in our gray hymnal. Stand if you are willing or able, and let us seek not afar for beauty.
Roots in sun.
Our congregational covenant provides us tools and encouragement to lean into our curiosity. We can always come back to our covenant, which gives us the courage to wonder and ask questions with genuine curiosity. Please stand as you are able and recite the covenant with me. We unite to strengthen the bonds of kinship among all persons, to promote human dignity, and to increase reverence for life's creating, sustaining, and transforming power through worship, study, and service. Please be seated. The book we're going to read is 20 Questions by Mac Barnett and Christian Robinson. Slide 1, slide 2. Come on up. How many animals can you see in this picture? How many animals can you not see in this one because they're hiding from the tiger? Which of these ladies just robbed a bank? Why is the elephant so upset? What is this boy hiding behind his back?
Melanie, I think our kids want to tell us.
How did that cow get all the way up there?
What do you think?
It flew.
Where did the bandits bury the treasure?
What do you think?
I think over near that tree behind us.
What would you do if you found it, if you found the treasure?
Answer.
We go by the one that was
You would use all the gold to buy the llama Lego set? Sounds good.
Which of these creatures is the zookeeper's favorite?
Is that Reese?
I think it's
Okay, it was a stick bug?
Stick bug.
Stick bug, all right.
Who gave Mr. Beckett a bump on his noggin?
I think he hit himself.
It was the cat, because the cat's away? Yeah.
What did the lion get the lamb for her birthday?
something that the lion is wearing.
Who is
The
she
lion got
waiting?
heat for their birthday? Nice. What a gift of heat.
Who is
She
she
is
waiting?
waiting for the ocean.
She wants to jump in the ocean? Yes.
Which of these fellows has a better singing voice?
I think it's the butler.
And the other ones up here think it's the person in the sunglasses.
What kind of beast lives in this bathtub?
That likes to eat apples.
A shark.
Yes. After she gets eaten.
Yeah, and what all does it like to eat?
Apples, grapes, peanut butter, some bread and bananas, and coconut.
Yeah, Reese? Reese doesn't think it's a coconut. Coconuts always have 3 holes.
Who is on the other side of this door?
A troll.
The billy goats are running away because they're so tall? Awesome.
Which of these children is dreaming of peaches?
That kid.
The one that's sticking out his tongue and doesn't like peaches.
Where is this ship sailing away to?
Sailing away to an island with peaches?
I think he's sailing to Greenland.
Mario's Island.
Mario's Island?
What's the name? The dinosaur guy's name that doesn't have oh yeah, Yoshi's Island.
Yoshi's Island? Okay.
Will you go with it?
Okay. Brothers are going.
Are you ever coming?
definitely go.
Okay. Are you ever coming back?
Yes.
No?
Okay, this one we have disagreement on. These are some secure children. They're not coming back. So.
Thank you very much.
Are there any questions that any of you wonder about? This isn't in the story. This is just me asking. From deep.
So, why did the zookeeper walk away from the animals?
I don't know why zookeepers walk away from animals. Oh, why doesn't the zookeeper stay with them? Because they might rampage through the fence. You wonder and you have an answer. Reese, do you have any questions you wonder about? Why do peaches have seeds sometimes? You know what? Today, after service, or if you were really hungry, you could go back there. I brought peaches from my tree that I grew. So you could go eat a peach and see if it has a seed inside. But if it didn't have a seed inside, then we couldn't grow more.
Actually, called it.
What questions do you wonder about?
Are we alone in the universe?
That's a good one. All right. Thank you all. Thanks for your help. At this time, yes, Elijah, you could come collect the cards and bring them to me. So, hopefully you all thought of some good questions. Give all your questions to Elijah. While he collects them, Allison's going to ask the first question to me.
The first question comes from Helen Moore. Why do we do services in the summer differently?
Why do we? Lots of reasons. One reason is that our faith in America really grew up around Boston, and most ministers would try to get a place on Cape Cod for the summer. And the church was so hot that there were no services in summer, and so from around Memorial Day to Labor Day, church was closed. And that's been part of our history, that it just kind of worked that way. And a lot of you churches don't have any air conditioning, and it's so hot in some of them that it could be 120 degrees inside their old buildings. So that was one reason. Then over time, we really started to think about, well, if we have freedom of the pulpit and we have freedom of the pew, should some people practice their spiritual practice by giving lay-led services. And so that's another way to give back to the congregation. We had an amazing group of people who helped with the tech for services and wrote services and did services together. And so that's just another way that we get to hear from each other and learn more about each other. It's also a way that we've saved money, because when we have a guest minister come, because of course we don't have we have independent polities, so it's not like we have, ministers that get dispatched to do fill-in services, so your minister takes a weekend off. We pay them, so it saves us money too. Does that answer your, very good.
The second question comes from Karen Epps. How can we hold hope about the future and climate crisis for our younger loved ones? My 2-year-old great niece, for instance, and the same for the economic divide. I feel so fearful for the times these young ones will face.
Yeah, it's a huge question, right? I think we all wonder it. I know for me, I believe that Unitarian Universalists are some of our best chance for addressing these. That's why I think it's so important to actually get people to join our congregations and come be a part of things and do that. I also think, for example, thank you so much, the talk about fascism is going to be really important. I think we need to understand these things in some different ways and what we can do about these big problems in different ways, because it's so easy to feel hopeless. And one of the things that I was really glad about when Reverend Cecilia Kingman gave the Berry Street address was talking about some things that we can do. I went to a class with Allison in spring to talk about more ways to make worship exciting, and I liked the teacher so much that I'm bringing her in, because what I'm seeing happen is that there's more and more calls to do public witness and to call things out that are unjust, and if we don't call them out, they certainly aren't going to change. And one thing I love in this Radical Curiosity book is he talks about how often protest is the first step, or writing letters, or calling your politicians. That's one step, but then you don't get to actually the new answer without curiosity. That if you are not curious about other ways to solve this, and like right now amongst my group of friends, we talk about late stage capitalism all the time. We talk about ways that capitalism is not working. There's a great article in the New York Times this weekend on why capitalism makes us want more and more and never be satisfied. I think it's really important to notice these things and wonder if there are other systems and ways of doing them. And this Radical Curiosity concept talks about how if we really want to do something about climate change and about the great economic divide and things like that, we can't do that if we're not curious about another way. If we accept that everything is how it's always going to be, it won't change. And he has this really neat chart. I thought about bringing it, but it kind of talks about how when people are going around and giving answers, some people will give, let me see if I can remember the right language for this. Some people will give the answer that reflects history. We could simply call it the way things have always been done, but I would think that kind of minimizes it, and I think there's plenty of things to learn from history. But some people will say, this is the way. We always do it this way, and this has worked for us, and why won't it work for everyone, And there's good things to learn from that. And then there's often this bubble up of ideas that we're trying on. I think this could work. I think we could try this. And sometimes those two groups really clash. And you'll hear me as I give answers today. I really don't think that answers are ever a binary. So for Karen Epps' question, I don't think it's simply we need to recycle, or we need to drive less, or I don't think answers are as simple as one-shot thing. I think there are many woven tapestries, and we need to ask each other and ask people who are nothing like us how to look at these things all differently. And then when someone suggests an idea that's just wildly different, rather than going, that's bananas, or what a bunch of jerks, how could they say that? To say, I wonder what that means, right? What are they saying? Why would they say that? Tell me about your experience that says that's what you came up with. Because I almost always find there's something else underneath the story. Is Karen here, or is she watching online? All right, well, we won't know if I satisfied her or not, but that's my thought. I want to share a meditation with you, and it's Letters to a Young Poet, it's from, and Rainer Maria Rilke, a very famous poet, wrote it. And so she's writing to a young poet, but I think so much of this applies to our life. And so kind of center yourself, breathe, wiggle if you need to. My friend back there, I see Reese, wave. Yeah, yes, I see Elijah, yes. You know, get yourself in a place that's comfortable to you, even if that means drawing or painting or something else. In the great silence of these distances, I am touched by your beautiful anxiety about life, even more than I was in Paris, where everything echoes and fades away differently because of the excessive noise that makes things tremble. Here, where I am surrounded by an enormous landscape, which the winds move across as they come from the seas, here, I feel there is no one anywhere who can answer for you those questions and feelings which in their depths have a life of their own. Think about that. Questions can have a life of their own. Even for the most articulate people can be unable to help, since what words point to is so very delicate, almost unsayable. But even so, I think that you will not have to remain without a solution if you trust in things that are like the ones my eyes are now resting upon. If you trust in nature, the small things that hardly anyone sees and that can so suddenly become huge, immeasurable. If you have this love for what is humble, and try very simply as someone who serves to win the confidence of what seems poor, then everything will become easier for you, more coherent, and somehow more reconciling. Not in your conscious mind, perhaps, which stays behind astonished, but in your innermost awareness, awakeness, and knowledge. You are so young, so much before all beginning, and I would like to beg you, dear sir, as well as I can, to have patience with everything. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, as if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language. Don't search for the answers which could not be given to you now because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, someday, far in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. Perhaps you do not carry with you the possibility of creating and forming as an especially blessed and pure way of living. Train yourself for that, but take whatever comes with great trust. And as long as it comes out of your will, out of some need of your innermost self, then take it upon yourself to live the questions. That's a B. Do I have a pile of questions, or do I really only have one question? I'm so happy to hear this. Okay. If you quick need to add another one in, you can, but I'm going to go sort questions while Melanie reads.
This is a quote from Radical Curiosity, and then there will be some questions, and I will ask the questions kind of in a different voice, because those are not part of the quote. Radical curiosity questions commonly held beliefs to imagine flourishing futures. To be radically curious is to challenge the narratives inherited from the past and author new stories that reflect who we are and what we value today. It is to recognize when our collective wisdom, like any outdated technology, needs an operating system upgrade. Ask yourself, how do you know your ideas and information are up to date? Are you going out of your way to wonder things with people who are not like you? People who are from a different class, culture, or neighborhood, or from a different church or family who will wonder differently? How can you question and wonder with others who are not like you? Radical curiosity empowers us to challenge inherited realities and seek new ways to engage people through dialogue. Radical curiosity is fueled by awe, rather than by fear, of the unknown. In these ways, radical curiosity begins with asking better questions. How do you learn the latest on a topic you're curious about? How do you improve your questions rather than race to answer them? How do you feel awe? Radical curiosity is the greatest expression of what it means to be a teacher and a learner, for whom living radical curiosity calibrates the evolving story of the human experience. It demands challenging the assumptions of our wisdom rather than accepting tradition and convention as unquestionable. What is something you've changed your mind about? What are you being called to wonder about? What is an area where you were taught one thing years ago and maybe now there's new information? How will you peruse questions about that? Do you have more questions now?
Can we start with one that just came across? How can we offer children more opportunities to get involved in our services and congregational life outside of RE? So I thought we'd ask an expert.
Kids can learn to usher and kids can join the choir and readers.
So they can
I
usher,
agree.
they can join the choir, and they can read. And you can personally attest that that's something that good. You highly recommend it. I bet there are other ways too. Thank you. So you can go back to your usher, and I bet that Denise has some ideas.
Thank you, Allison. How can we get kids more involved in the whole life of the congregation? Well, one of the first things I want to do this year is I want all the youth to have a name tag that they wear in here. And one thing that we have learned about youth that actually stay with the faith is that they have to have 5 people who are not their parents and not their teacher that know them and know something about them. So one way that youth could be more involved is if all of you got to know some of the youth. And so we'll be looking at more ways to do that, but one of the first ways is just to learn their names and ask them, what are you interested in? You know, what do you like to do? What's your favorite food? What have you, if they're an age that reads, have you been reading anything? What shows do you like? What's your favorite toy? You know, those kinds of things. And then listen to the answers. So get to know, you all, I'd like you to get to know 5 youth, and it's really important that the youth feel that they're important enough in the community that 5 people care about them. So that's another tip.
And speaking of youth, how is Aiden?
Oh, Aiden. My son, for those of you who don't know, had a major spine surgery in May, and he's doing really well. He wiggles and can twerk again, and can sleep in goofball teenage positions. His spine is about 24% curved. It had been up to 66%, so it's a great improvement. It's possible that as he grows, the way the technique was, it's called the tether, so you should think about this if you ever know anyone with scoliosis that has a kid dealing with this. It's a more rare surgery that hopefully will become more popular. They're just being trained how to do it in Chicago now. Aiden wouldn't have been able to been one of their first ones because his case was much more serious. We had to go to Philadelphia, but as the tether grows, as Aiden grows, his tether will straighten his back more, is hopefully the goal. So he's about 2 inches taller and he's doing really well. Thank you for all your support.
Now we have somebody, Xander wants to know, is God real?
I just want to point out that, Xander, where are you? Here you go. Wave your arms really big. Yeah. That Xander asked the hardest question, right? Is God real? God is many things to many people. And some people see God as a person that lives in the heavens, and some people see God as a spark of wonder that can be found in every person. Some people find God in the miracles of how science exists. God can be so many things. And I like to think of the word God as almost like a symbol. You know how like a heart is a symbol, right, of love, right? I like to think of the word God as a symbol for whatever each person believes about God. And hopefully your beliefs about God or nature or the divine or what makes you know you're really special inside, Xander, hopefully that'll always grow and change over your whole life. And as a Unitarian Universalist, we're going to help teach you more things about those concepts. And so God is real. It just depends what you think God is that's real to you.
But the budget here is tight. Minister salary paramount to selection. What thoughts do you have around CCUU flexibility to accept a less than full-time minister?
I'm the biggest part of the budget. Okay, let's just be real blunt and honest, right? Our biggest line item is my salary and benefits. And the biggest part of the whole budget is the staff salary and benefits. And that's not uncommon. A lot of people try to apply some sort of corporate measurement or other nonprofit, but in churches we often have lower building costs, and our product that we make here is people and the lives of people. And so, for example, I spent the most of my last 2 weeks on a big trauma and helping a family through that. So there's different rumors going around about if there's a minister shortage. And a perspective that I've come to know and personally have experienced is that we actually don't have a minister shortage as much as we have congregational problems, that congregations have become much more difficult places to work in. As our world has become far more stressful, people often take that out on ministers and staff. So there's a lot of ministers going into community ministry and leaving parish work. I started to think the other day that I should have a clause in my contract that says you get extra time off if there's giant traumas or something like that. Because we want to care for one another, and we want to care for our ministers so they can care for us. So as far as the budget, some churches are doing creative things and they're starting to share ministers and stuff. It's really hard. There's no real UUA support on sharing ministers beyond letting people know that these ones might want to. I'm seeing more and more congregations really struggle with, they'll choose to keep a building rather than keeping a minister. And I think it's a really good time for us to start to ask ourselves, what is church? Is it a building? Is it coffee? Is it parking lots? Is it, can we only use these buildings for certain things? I think we're at a time of great exploration. A lot of congregations that end up not having a minister, our friends in Elgin don't have a minister, and they regularly make the decision to keep their unique building, right? A lot of them don't grow. A lot of people aren't necessarily excited to come to a church that doesn't have a minister. So it's a big decision if you start cutting your minister position. As far as sharing, it then it starts to look too that then you have more congregants. Our pay scales are based on not just the size of the congregation, but also their budgets and things like that. And so there's more complication with that kind of thing. There also have to be impeccable boundaries with congregations that want to share a minister. So it's really complicated. Can you read the word of that? There was something in there that sounded a little, yeah.
You want it reread?
Yeah.
Budget here is tight. Minister's salary paramount to selection. What thoughts do you have around CCU flexibility to accept a less than full-time minister?
Yeah, I don't think we're a congregation that it's time to explore that. I think that we did amazing things with the budget this last year. We brought all the staff salaries up to at least somewhere in the median route, and so we've become fair. A year ago, I would have been really worried about our ability to get a minister based on what we were paying the staff. Ministers don't look at just their own salary, they actually look at how fairly the church is paying everyone. They also look at how much we pay our UUA dues and things like that. So ministers really examine a lot of things. They'll examine how much anti-racism work we've done, what kind of deep question work we've done. So a year ago, I would have been a lot more worried about our financial position and attracting a good minister. I'm really not worried at all about that right now. I think more than anything, it's finding a good match for all of you. I believe you have the potential to grow if you want to. If you're willing to do things that won't be all, we can't continue to say, we'll do exactly what we've done because we're so great, and then we know that we've proven that we continue to shrink that way. So we've proven that real well, so we have to do some different things. And the group that went to GA, we all went to a great session on disrupting church, doing a lot more public witness things. Oh, I was saying that Allison and I went to a great class about doing worship differently and stuff. I also hired the woman who's taught us that class to come teach all the ministers in this region, which actually stretches from Missouri to the top of Michigan. But we're having a meeting in October, and I hired that same teacher to come to talk about ways to create impromptu public witness that's not necessarily angry protesting, but making spiritual experiences impromptu. Yeah, and how to lead some songs and stuff like that. I don't even know if I got to tell you that yet, but I'm pretty excited about it. So those are all playing into that. Okay, I've talked about that a lot.
As a staff person, I would really struggle, I think, to work with a part-time minister. Just for the very reason you have just shown that leadership right there of finding someone to come and train the ministers in the area, and I know the trainer that she's bringing in. Who would make decisions like that without someone at the head? And so I'm hopeful that we don't have to be flexible and that we can be sure to head forward with someone truly in charge for us. It's my vote.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, it will cheer you up if you ever have to get to that point, but it's ministry is usually 70, 80 hours a week. So the idea of telling someone that you're going to do 3/4 time is so like bananas to me. I spent last night thinking on and on about, you know, a congregant. I tried so hard to turn off a sad situation, but I lost sleep. You know, it's a very different thing to do than a job you go to certain hours and you can turn off your email, so.
And sometimes they have to share jobs. As a musician who's part-time, I take other jobs as well. But it's hard because if you're doing work for someone else, you're not doing work here. And if we share a minister and they have something they need to do for another church and we need them, we're lost. So I think we can stay on. Next question. How does the search committee find an excellent minister when they only see the polished job interview facade?
I think that our interview process for search committee, this is Rev Denise talking, this is not the UUA, this is Rev Denise talking. I think we have the most grueling interview process of any profession on earth. People are making their websites right now. They submit all these sermons. They then get their first interview in January. Our search committee will interview them on Zoom. Then they either do a whole weekend of Zoom or they come here and the search committee will interview them for 3 days. And then we bring the selected candidate in for 8 days. It's the most grueling process with lots of questions and stuff in between. So I really don't think you just get the polished interview. I also think that we have all these ways that all these people get called about your work. People check up on your references from every corner of the universe. So it's important too to be really open-minded in that process because you know, I've certainly had congregations that weren't my ideal match, and I think, you know, I wasn't as good of a minister as I hoped to be because it wasn't an ideal match. You're really going for a match more than, and someone that you all can partner with. If you look at the minister you're hiring as the perfect answer to come in and answer everything, you probably won't have a successful ministry. And sometimes life happens. You might find someone great and they might, you know, have life happen and they can't stay as long as they wanted to or something. And then you'll find out if I'm an interim again and you'll find out if you do.
How can we address the concerns of those who come to us expecting more God and then leave us when they don't find enough of what they need?
Well, one, I think we have to create a really good open dialogue so that people express that that's what they're looking for. At the last congregation I was at, I had a couple of people that put together, there are UU Christian groups and study guides, and they put together a UU Christian group within the congregation that studied lots of mysticism and lots of sacred texts that were Christian. There's a national UU Christian fellowship. I just saw they're doing like their big weekend in DC next month and the month after, and I thought, should I share that with Countryside? So there's certainly resources there. It's really about people wanting to lead it, and I think the model that Susan has like taken that I gave her and she's run with it about adult education is ideal for that, because we have all these curriculums that we bought that we just need people to lead, and we always can learn from some other faith. So even if that's not where you find your home, you might find an answer you're looking for.
What legal and UUA recommended limits are there on church-driven, get-out-the-vote efforts within CCUU and the broader community? And this question is from Vlad.
Hey, Vlad. Great question. We have to operate under nonprofit rules, so we can never endorse a candidate. We can do all kinds of get-out-the-vote stuff. Jeannie Scown's nodding her head because she's one of the people interested in that. I really can't say enough about how important it is. Something I'm trying to wean this congregation from, and lots of congregations do this, is the idea that you all have to create everything yourselves. So like Susan and I bought a whole like curriculum pack for our adult ed and lifespan education classes. We have Side with Love. Side with Love is free to us, right? It's part of the UUA. They do tons of get out the vote. The fascism thing that we're doing today is related to that. They have something once a month, and then they have all these ways that you can participate with other UUs nationwide from your home. So you can get all kinds of great education on that as we go through the next election cycle. Speaking of which, I was just asked, we'll see if it happens, to participate in speaking at the protest in front of the Republicans' first debate in Milwaukee to talk about reproductive justice. So in that case, I'm going to take a position on reproductive justice. I'm not going to talk about what candidates be.
How do older congregation members open our minds and hearts to younger members with contemporary views of life?
I think the first answer is curiosity. If you really want to be open, you have to be curious. And I would say don't make the discussion about age. Make it about interests. You know, don't say, oh, when I was your age. Don't do that. You know, start with like, hey, what are you into? What's fun for you? What are you worried about? These are questions we all have in common, right? We can all have discussions about that. I think it's really important to participate in all the cottage meetings that we have. They are proven to change communities, and you are a different community for having gone through all those discussions last year. There's going to be more by the search committee, there will be more by the interim committee, and I'm sure we'll have small group meetings during stewardship season. You were amazing when you got to the annual meeting last year. You knew what was going on, right? We didn't have a contentious annual meeting. So that's just another way, is you have to actually get in conversation. Show up to those classes you might think it's only going to be marginally interesting. You know, that's how you get to know people. That's how the church goes from big to small, and that's how your heart gets changed. See,
Last question, you've done it.
all right.
And this is, what books would you recommend for newcomers to UU? And let me tell you, we have a fabulous library right here in the building. So I'd send them to the library and tell them to look for...
Well, there's so many books in our library. It kind of depends on your path where I would send you. Let me pull out my Kindle. Like right now, think about this. So there's a new book, Mistakes and Miracles, that's really good, that's published. We have Beacon Press that's attached to the UUA, and we have different publishing groups that you could explore our UUA bookstore, you can explore our library. The current UU common read, we do a common read every year. I'm reading it right now, it's called On Repentance and Repair. I highly recommend. I can put a list also in your in the newsletter this week of different ones. I think it's important to read some different contemporary thinkers, like if you don't know Sonia Renee Taylor, her values and views go right along with UU. I think it's important to check out, you know, I Can't Live Without You reading some Howard Thurman, because I'm a geek that way. What else? There's a great book called Beyond Welcome, Building Communities of Love, that would be a great first UU book, and I really don't know why they would just apply to beginning UU, but I think they would help. I think it's important to read some of the great thinkers that have been around a long time, but also to kind of compare that. One of my favorite contemporary UU thinkers, I'm really bad with names on the spot, so I'm pulling up my thing here. I can see her, Nancy McDonald, Nancy McDonald Ladd, Nancy Ladd McDonald. She's a minister on the East Coast. I love her book, and I think that would be a great one. Oh yeah, her book's called After the Good News, Nancy McDonald Ladd. And that's a great book that you all should check out. So that's I'll put a whole list because that's how I am. I definitely read some stuff by Darkening the Doorways is about some of our our history in the Black community. That would be very good, and about some of the history that's happened in the UU community that way. That same author, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment, wrote Selma Awakening, Mark Morrison Reed, that's it. So those are some. So, as you think about questions, you could have a spiritual practice where you write a question down every day, right? What's the question that you're gonna think about? And think about the future is not a single stream. It's not defined by a single author or limited linear dichotomies. The future is plural. Many diverse possibilities are entangled by the complexity of interconnected conditions. No issue is by itself. We don't work on just racism or just the environment. They're totally intertwined. Or just women's issues, right? Because those are all intertwined. So the same thing with the future is plural, and there are many complexities that are all entangled and interconnected. So radical curiosity, getting to the core, what is the best question to ask? What's another great question to ask? Curiosity is what allows us to experience the joy and the wonder of bringing up absurd impossibilities into fruition, because all of that is a radical act of optimism.
Most of us dream of having a huge impact on our community. It is challenging to have that effect alone, but together, with generosity of spirit, financial gifts, time, and love, we build on the mission we envision. The offering will now be gratefully received.
So as you leave, I want to encourage you to go out with bold curiosity. Don't let the questions end here. Many of your questions will never be answered, but oddly, I bet you will be surprised when the answers come in the questions. Live the questions. And as Seth Goldenberg of Radical Curiosity says, it is the greatest expression of what it means to be an entrepreneur, a futurist, and a leader when you are willing to raise the bar of our ambitions and expectations. It is an antidote to the apathy that leaves us content with how things are and emboldens us to ask what they might become. Thank you.
Please join me in your teal book, hymn number 1014, or we have on the slide now. This hymn used to be called Standing on the Side of Love, but we've changed it to Answering the Call of Love, which is always a good place to start looking for answers to our questions. Please stand as you are willing or able and sing with me, Answering the Call of Love.